Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood, life's ups and downs, and all things pop culture that we know you want to talk about.
With special guests and expert insights, we're here to empower you through the chaos of everyday life.
Consider this your ultimate escape from the hustle and bustle. And as always, parental guidance suggested.
Camp is now in session.
Alex Hall, mother, reality star, businesswoman. Welcome to Camp Chaos.
I'm so happy to be here.
We're so excited to have you.
We actually want to go all the way back to like the very beginning to understand you and your roots. So like take us back. Where were you born? What was childhood like?
Oh boy. So I was born in a small town in Central California, right between Fresno and Modesto. Very, very small town called Merced. I mean, so small that we didn't have a mall to go to. We used to have to drive to like a bigger town.
And there was no online shopping.
Nothing. I don't even know if there was internet. Like,
it was
like
dating myself.
Like you had to like the phone.
Like I'm plugging in.
No one could answer the phone if you were on the
Yeah.
internet. And I moved from there when I was 15 with my family. My parents wanted to just get out of Dodge.
Give you a life.
Our kid, they were like, if our kids have, and mostly my mom, not my dad. My dad would have been happy there forever, but my mom had bigger, aspirations and goals for us. And so she uprooted us when I was 15, a freshman, just finished freshman year of high school, and threw me in.
That is a horrible time to move.
I didn't even know that how horrible.
But you're getting out of Merced. Like, you'd probably be like, peace out, bye.
You know what's interesting is I kind of was, but looking back, I don't know how I was like that because my daughter's 14, going on, going to be 15
Oh, so
this
you
year.
can't imagine doing that to her.
I can't imagine. She would be horribly depressed. And I mean, and I was when I first moved here, but I wasn't scared going in. I think because everybody else, it was a weird time in my life too. And I think everybody else in town was so excited. They were like, oh my God, I can't believe you're getting out of here. And so I just rode off of that energy. And then once we actually moved here and they shoved me into this very, very Orange County, if you will, high school, very cliquey.
Which high school were you at?
Dana.
Ooh,
And coming from this small town, like especially Northern California, we all have different styles,
Yes.
You went from like the simple life to Beverly Hills, basically.
Oh yeah, but like when you say simple, it's like in every regard. Like my clothes were different. My friends used to say I had an accent, and I'm like, no, I didn't.
No, you did. You were from
I'm
Northern
from California.
No, but it's Northern California.
And they all agree. They said, no, you had an accent. We didn't.
But at least you made friends.
And I made the wrong friends in the beginning, and then by the grace of God, I fell into the right group of friends. And I mean, most of us are still friends to this day. And I really, really, really do believe that your group of friends, especially at that young of an age, like in adolescence and when you're growing, even as you get older, at our age, that is one of the most important contributing factors into who you grow up to be.
When you said you made a wrong group of friends, I'm like, oh, so you were like, you made the bad group of friends.
I never got into, I don't know, I'm so naive. I'm still so naive. And I think it's because I got pregnant very, very early on and I was 18. And so I grew up very, very quickly. So even as like an adult or college years, I still never realized what the drug scene was. I was a stay-at-home mom at 18. I went from my parents' house, graduating high school, from my parents' home, college for 2 months, came back for Thanksgiving break, went to a Dana high school game in November, got pregnant with a guy I started seeing within 3 months. And he was older than me. He was 23 at the time.
Which that's not a big gap, 5 years, but like back then that is a huge gap.
Back then.
He's a 23-year-old man.
Yeah. I mean, he was still a baby, a boy,
He probably still, is.
Probably, and still is.
Yeah.
But I went straight from that to my parents' house to 9 months later, I went into labor in my parents' home. Met him at the hospital with our families, both of our families, who were both very supportive, by the way. And from the hospital, 3 days after giving birth, went and moved in with him into our home together.
Ooh.
I mean, if I hadn't been so young and naive, I don't think I even would have survived as long as we did. Because when you're so young,
you know nothing else.
You're fearless, You don't know what's right, what's the norm, what's wrong. You just are going kind of with the flow and what's presented to you, your survival mode, right? And so when I tell the story back, I think to myself, oh my gosh, like we've done a fairly decent job, you know, me and my ex, I give myself more credit than him because I feel like if it weren't for me, God only knows where we'd be. But we co-parent, and thinking just about anybody, not even moving into a home with a newborn baby, but the fact that we did that and we lasted 7-8 years of marriage and 2 children. I mean, I probably still have some deep-rooted stuff that needs to be dug up, you know, that only, you know, maybe 10 more years of therapy will cure. But it's my whole journey has been crazier than I even realized, because it's my journey. And I don't think you realize how crazy your own journey is because you're in it. So to see it from an aerial perspective or an outside perspective kind of gives you a different perspective as well. But you're never going to know anything other than your experience.
Well, when you look back on your own experience, you're like, whoa, shit. Yeah. Like I went through that. That was me. I did that.
Yeah.
We talk about how hard motherhood is, and we're in our 30s.
But I also feel like it doesn't matter. And could you imagine having a baby right now? Like, it doesn't matter if you're 18, 28, 38. Like, I still feel like people look at me and they're like, oh, you're too young to have a baby. Like, you just never actually know
you're never
what you're
ready.
doing.
But 18,
you're never ready. I mean, I think, I don't know if you're never ready. I don't know if you can prepare yourself enough, because
it's the unknown.
You don't know until you're going through the motions and experiencing it yourself. Even if you have, you know, even if you've been a nanny, or you have a sister and you're an aunt, or you're, you know, whatever your previous experiences have been, until you have your own baby in your arms.
That's full your responsibility.
That's all your responsibility. Yeah. I remember. And I've wanted to be a mom since I was out of the womb myself. Like, I was always a little girl with a baby doll on her hip, you know? And so I knew that I wanted to be a mother. There was never a fear there, clearly. But with that being said, the journey of motherhood is one of the most, probably the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. And I think most women will do. But also the most challenging thing I've ever done in my entire life. Ever. Nothing. Yeah. I always say, like, not a lot of things, most things bounce off me, you know, and I'm pretty resilient, and I've had to be. But if anybody comes for my kids, or if my kids come for me,
you're like, actually,
no
let
one
me
can make me cry like my kid, or some of my choices nothing keeps me up at night except my children.
My kids.
That's it.
Wait, how many siblings do you have, and what order are you?
I'm the youngest, and I have one sister, but everybody always assumes I'm the oldest. Oh, and my sister's like, that's because you look older. I'm like, no, it's not, bitch. It's because I'm more mature than you.
This is my sister dynamic.
I do not look older than you.
My sister's 3 years older. She says the same thing. I'm like, no, it's because you were forever 13 and I was born 40.
There
and
you go.
There's just a difference.
There you go.
But yeah, same. Okay, so you had your daughter. You were 18 years old.
Yeah.
You and your boyfriend at the time got married, and they're like, we're going to do this together. We're going to figure this out.
Well, my parents were like, you got to tie the knot. Like, this is not
religious reasons,
I
culture,
think
like
just
what was
culturally.
If you're going to do this, you're going to do it.
You're going to do it. And they wanted me to get married before I had the baby, and it just wasn't the right time. And I didn't have a wedding, never worn a wedding dress. We literally went down to the Laguna courthouse, got married.
And I'm talking to myself.
I was going to say she's from
So it's kind of sad, like tear, you know, but I'm like, maybe one day I'll put on
I got married at that same courthouse.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wore white True Religion jeans. I didn't even wear that. It's gross. I'm gross.
That dates you.
I'm like, they were bell bottoms. I don't even think I had a heel.
They're back now, though. Bell bottoms.
I know. Saved them. They were low rise. I don't think I'm ever going to do the low rise.
Where did you meet your husband?
So I met him at
your ex-husband.
My ex-husband. I came back, like I said, for Thanksgiving break, and we went to a Dana football game. Me and a couple of my other girlfriends who were in town. And after the football game, we went to a party, and it was like a very low-key party. And actually, the guy I lost my virginity to, who hate is not allowed in my household or my vocabulary, but he's the one exception. Horrible. He was a horrible human being. And so that whole thing about the guy you lose your virginity to, you're always like attached to, right? So I had this weird attachment to him. So anyways, he had invited us to a party at his friend's house. He's like, oh, it's a huge house. Like, it's super cool. You should stop by. So me and my girlfriend stopped by, and it ended up being my ex-husband's parents' house. He was living with them and going to UCI at the time. And I met him, and we just clicked. It was like,
sparks.
It was,
chemistry,
all of the
things,
all of it. And
You're like, let's make a baby.
like it just, the rest was history. And we started dating, and we were dating for 3 months. And then I became like infatuated with this man. Like just
What's his background?
Cuban.
Just because you said he was controlling.
Very
previously.
controlling, very machismo, you know, but I'm 18. I'm just like, oh, it's hot.
Control
totally.
me. Yeah,
Yes.
let's go there.
You know?
Yes.
And I'm like, nobody tells me what to do, but you can
You
tell
can.
me. And I wanted the chase. He was 23. He's like, well, who the hell are you? You're a little baby, you know? And I was obviously had so many talk about daddy issues. I mean, so many. He was the one who
Was going to fix you.
it wouldn't, or I was going to fix him. You know, he
right.
would do, you know, cold shoulder and not call back and the whole toxic thing, you know, and so I was chasing him. And we ended up getting pregnant, and I wasn't sure if I was even going to keep the baby at that point, but not a single ounce of fear ran through my bones at all. The second I found out I was pregnant, I was just like, okay, well, now what? You know? And I didn't want to put any pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so wild to think back. I never had the mentality of, well, what if, or what if it, there was no fear. I just thought if he wants to do it and we're a team with this,
He's on board.
I'm down.
Yeah.
And so we ended up deciding to keep the baby. And he was 23 at the time. Remind you, I was 18. And he was going out. He was partying with his friends. Like
While you're pregnant?
Oh, the whole time. I was living with my parents. But it never bothered me at all. And
You weren't jealous?
nothing.
Or like, what are you doing?
No,
Like,
not an ounce. I was fat.
you were meant
at
to be this
home,
mommy.
And
Yeah.
I
Wow.
was just like, whatever, you know, go have fun. And if that was to happen now,
Yeah, it'd be
I would
different story.
probably, but I feel like he
There'd be a
conditioned
hit on
me
this man.
at a very, he was conditioning me subconsciously. He didn't even know he was conditioning me at the time. So that way, when I had the baby and I was home, and I went into really, really horrible undiagnosed postpartum depression. And I had no idea for maybe a year after I had my daughter. And talk about all of these things I didn't even realize how bad they were at the time. I had a vaginal delivery at 19. I was 19 when I delivered. And she fractured my pubic bone.
Ooh.
So I couldn't walk for 6 months.
How long was your labor?
My labor was only 6 hours. But there were whole story is there. Like there were so many signs. Like I shouldn't have probably done a vaginal delivery. So I couldn't walk. So that was depressing in and of itself. I literally had to go down my stairs, crawl backwards. Because I couldn't, your pubic bone is like almost like
It's everything.
your
It's your
core.
core.
Yeah.
So I couldn't move my legs like this. I had to waddle like this, go back and forth because I couldn't do this motion.
Oh my
I couldn't
God.
roll over
You're like
in
top
bed. It was crazy. And so that obviously contributed to the depression. But I was so young and so stupid that I thought postpartum depression was you're sad. You're sad because you're not pregnant anymore. That's what I thought
because
postpartum
you're
depression
18.
was. I'm like, oh, I'm not. I'm totally stoked. I'm so happy with the baby.
Oh my
The
God.
baby was the only thing that gave me joy. And so when he would be gone all the time. He was going to school, and thank God, talk about having mothers, right? My parents lived like I could throw a stone at their house.
God.
And so I was there from the second I woke up in the morning, I was
Mom,
there.
yeah.
I was at mom and dad's house. And that baby brought so much joy to so many people. She was the first grandchild on both sides.
And well, your mom was probably young too. It's like it could have been her baby.
I mean, I don't know about that young, but my mom was, 14 years ago, my mom was 60, 50.
That's young.
About 50.
young.
Yeah. And I mean, talk about a village. Like they all helped, and that was my joy and my light. And he was just gone all of the time. And there were looking back, so many red flags and but everything happens for a reason. We had another baby, and it was.
Okay, so at 19 though, did you feel like you were living the like married life with the kid?
Oh gosh. Oh
or
yeah.
it was.
Oh no. After we got married, I think something kind of shifted in him. There's just something about marriage. There is just something when you're a husband and a wife. I don't care if you say, oh, it's just, getting the government involved. I don't care what it is. There's something about marriage that makes it different.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like once we got married, things changed. There was a shift. I felt like he really understood that we were in a weird way, a family and a partnership. So we ended up moving homes. And after we had our second, I just fell into motherhood. I mean, that was all consuming for me. Everything, the making the lunches and the parties and the play dates and the extracurricular activities and all of that. It was my
you
pride
said
and joy.
Recently, you're like, I know that I was a great mom and a great wife.
I was, absolutely.
And I called Taylor and I said, how do you know if you're a great mom or a great wife? Because I need to ask Alex, because I feel like I'm sucking at both some days. But you said it so confidently, like I was a great wife. I'm like, shit.
I know I was. And so after years into our marriage, I finally convinced him to go to therapy with me. And he would always say, the therapist would always ask the same thing, like, what do you love about her? And he was very, very, it was very difficult for him to express his emotions, and not just express them, but I think understand even how he was feeling. He didn't grow up in a household where you ever talk about anything. Ironically, his dad is a psychologist, but very weird.
Like they never shut up, but they never really talked.
Yeah, no, they just never talked about. They were very macho. I don't think they ever talked about. They weren't allowed to have feelings and emotions, and they didn't hold space. But which was also
and your family's probably completely opposite, where it's like we talk about our feelings and you love hard.
We did, but it was also, I think, a generational thing. Mm-hmm. Like I definitely talked about it more, but not so much with my parents.
Yeah,
my parents, I always knew that they would be there for me, and they were very. I don't know how to explain it, but we weren't sitting down talking about, tell me how your day was, tell me how you're feeling right now. Oh, let's lean into that. Like this generation is so
like you with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what every single feeling is. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, let's dig a little deeper with that. Like my parents never said that to me. But so whenever we would go to therapy, my ex-husband and I, he would always just talk about how fantastic of a mother I was. And I'm like, okay, but what about me?
Mm-hmm.
And it consumed me and it became my identity. But I know I was a great wife, but I wasn't the best version of myself because I didn't take care of myself at all.
It was all for your husband.
I was never
and your kids.
allowed. It was either what he wanted or the highway, And so as long as I was this little Stepford housewife who didn't have any outside interaction with any friends, or he didn't want me to work unless I was working from home. So I took over his business and I worked from home in the office in between being mom, right? And I know, and I loved being a wife. I loved being a wife. And it got to a point where,
You want to be a sister wife? I'm hiring.
I don't even know what that means, but what happened was after my son was like about 2 and my daughter was almost 5 at the time. No, 6, almost 6, I'm sorry. And I just wanted adult interaction. Even this would have sufficed, and not like some crazy career woman where I'm holding a fucking briefcase and being gone all of the time. But I wanted something where I could have balance and do the mom thing, but also I don't want to talk about diaper bags and fucking nappies all day long. Like give me something more. Yeah. And before I became a mother and a wife, I wanted to be an attorney, and I wanted to be doing something where I knew I needed something where I was negotiating and talking and having a business mentality, if you will. So that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back when I got my real estate license and I was outside of the house, which also I just started getting more confidence. And he was like, no.
Not only the confidence, but like in that realm, you're dealing with a lot of men too. And if he's
was not
jealous,
okay with any of it.
Not even like women friends, women in the business.
Nothing.
Wow.
I couldn't even
get dressed to go.
Literally, if I would get dressed, when I was 19, right after I had my daughter, so I was out of school, but I was like, I'm going to just I'll go to Saddleback. It's not far and I'll just get my degree that way. And I would get dressed, and I was always a girl's girl. I mean, if you know Molly, I don't know how long you've known her, but even since high school, always in a heel. Like we're psychopaths, like always in a heel. The
commitment to the heel, right?
And so and my mom was like, we're always dressed up. We always put on our makeup. We always get dressed. And I became a little bit of a schlumpadinka after I had my daughter, but I also couldn't fucking walk. Right, so I got to give myself a little grace.
Yeah.
And so I got dressed. I remember, and I came downstairs, and he's like, what are you dressed up for? Oh. And I was like, this is because I don't have Lululemons on. Like I actually have clothes on. And I was just like, and he always is that little by little, just chipping away down. Oh my gosh. And when I'm telling you, I didn't even realize this until I got out of it. Years after I got out of it, even in it, I just knew in my bones that it wasn't going to work. And obviously there was some things that came to light, but it was just never going to work and I was never going to be fulfilled. And there's so much guilt that comes from leaving a family, right? And it was a very, very difficult decision to make. And it's still sometimes, you know, at night.
How old were you when you decided?
When I got divorced, 23.
Still a child.
So young.
No, it was like 23 or 20. No, I was 23 when I had my son. Sorry. I was 26 when I got divorced.
Was there like a particular moment where you were like, this is it?
With my marriage?
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, I remember after my daughter was born, you know, she's maybe a year, 2 years old. And I was going shopping with one of my best friends and we were talking about stuff. And this is when I was still like very much so obsessed with my husband at the time. I was just infatuated because he provided a life for me and my children. And I was so in love with that idea that for a very long time, it made me be in love with him. Mm-hmm. And so I remember looking over to her, we were talking about relationships, or I don't know. She was literally in college at the time talking about gaining a freshman 15. And I'm talking about trying to
lose my baby weight,
you know?
Oh, yeah.
And I said to her, you know, I feel it in my bones. Like he's not the end all be all for me. And she looked at me, her head almost spun off of her body. And she said, what? And I said, I know that sounds really weird coming out of my mouth, but I just feel that in my bones. And I was happy at the time. It was so weird. And that wasn't an aha moment. I just was like, I just don't. And I thought I'm just going to probably maybe later after the kids are grown, maybe something. And I have very strong intuition usually as well. So my aha moment was probably, my son was about 2. And I told him, you know, something's not right. And I think, you know, we should separate. I had an itch that I couldn't scratch. And my mom she's like, you were like a cat on a hot tin roof. Like something was going on. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to get divorced yet or if I just needed space to like breathe and like figure out something for myself.
Were you guys fighting a lot or is it more of just?
So it got to that point where we were fighting and I didn't want to fight in front of the kids. And there was no reasoning or rationalizing with him because he was very emotionally like stunted. So there was no validating. There was no, I get it or I understand or.
You couldn't control it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I was being controlled for the last, 7 or 8 years and I couldn't, it was like, it's going nowhere. Have you ever argued with like a crazy person? Then you feel crazy. Right. Mm-hmm. And I would tell him, stop. Like, I don't want to argue in front of the kids. And he couldn't, once he was worked up, mm-hmm. he couldn't let it go.
It's too hot.
And so we separated and so I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I felt like my decision to just want more or say like, oh, okay, he's controlling and insecure and makes me feel like shit about myself and I can't have a life. I didn't feel like that was a good enough reason, right? Like on paper, like nobody would understand that. Yeah. And that's not okay. And so I remember praying a lot and I just asked God, I said, give me something, give me a sign, give me something. And literally within that week, I got all of the signs that I needed. And I was like, wow, okay, that's a big one.
Infidelity.
That's a big one. And I mean, yeah, so a lot of that. And I thought to myself, okay, that's okay. Like this is the dark cloud that's been following us around for so many years. It's because you've been projecting. And that's why you've been insecure and wanting to control me because you don't feel it's that. And if I had a dime for every time someone said, because the way like that they saw him treating me, they said, okay, well, that's obviously because
he's doing it.
He's doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, no, are you kidding? He's so obsessed with me. Like he doesn't even let me have friends. Like he wouldn't be.
It's not love he's doing it.
It was just control. And so I thought, okay, we can move past this. Like we'll go to therapy and we can make it work. And then I very quickly realized I couldn't make it work because my body was physically rejecting this person. And I said to him, maybe I could make it work, but I don't know if we'll ever be able to be like intimate again. Like the emotional bond is so destroyed. Mm-hmm. And I knew that before I found out about, what was going on. Because if somebody chips away at you for so long, there was no desire to be intimate. I just wanted to please my husband. I never had the desire to be intimate with him because there was never intimacy at all. It was just sex. I remember thinking, okay, maybe it's because we're young, or maybe I had my hormones tested. Like we thought the problem was me.
Of course.
Yeah,
and I was like, it is. Of course it's me,
Yeah,
because you want to do it all the time. And you got to take me to, take me to Masters, and I got to have 2 martinis to want to do that. And I thought maybe it's because all of the reasons in the book.
Well, because intimacy for a woman starts way outside of the bedroom.
So different for men and women. It's way outside. And there was none of that for us. And so I was like,
and then he gets you in bed and wants you to like perform, and you're like, my body doesn't turn on like that.
Before I found out about what was happening, I would turn it on because I wanted to be a good wife, and that's part of being a good wife. And then after that, I was like, I can't even.
You physically,
I literally can't. Oh my God, it was a visceral feeling.
Yeah, closed off.
And he obviously felt horrible, but only because
he got caught.
And I said, and then even then I had empathy or sympathy, not empathy, but sympathy, because I thought, wow, you've been walking around with that all these years.
How gross that must have felt for him.
You must have felt horrible, and whether it came out as control or anger or whatever it was, that's horrible. And this is the father of my children, right? And so I had a lot of, I just felt bad. And I know he felt bad, and it is what it is, but I could not move past it. I could not physically move past that. And I said, do you want a marriage where there's no physical intimacy? Would that be, because we could raise the kids and
have an understanding.
And he's like, no. And I was like,
Did he try to fight for you and get you back and do all the things?
I mean, he forever, but
still,
but it's something
that's actually who was calling. That's
But and the hard part is that we're always going to be in each other's lives.
Mm-hmm.
We have
it's not who you
together.
marry; it's who you choose to have kids with.
And I feel like they should teach more about this stuff in school.
100%.
Like,
that
it's
and
not
your
even about being a
taxes.
teen mom and the struggles and the financial and the emotional.
Choosing a partner to have children with.
Yes, instead of teaching us how to divide and carry the two, teach us how to pick our partners and be emotionally intelligent enough to choose wisely, and somebody that you're going to be connected with for the rest of your life.
Well, and I'm sure you have those conversations now with your kids.
We're doing the best that we can as moms, and it's not every day. I know I was a fantastic wife. I know I was a fantastic mother. I loved both. But it's day by day. I definitely, it weighs heavier on my heart now, me being a mother, because I have so much more stress in my life than I did when I was married, and I had security, and I worked because I wanted to work, not because I had to work. And my priorities could be what I wanted them to be, my children and my family. And now we're wearing so many hats. We're not meant to be single parents. That's not the way it's not the way God meant it, right? And so this isn't my first choice, right? We need partners, and I also, one of the things that keeps me up at night is I thought for sure I would have been remarried by now. And I sabotaged a lot of really great relationships, early on after my divorce, not early on, but after my divorce, because I still had so much healing to do. And I now think to myself, well, my kids they have no example of what a healthy relationship looks like. Because my ex-husband's, he's never going to get remarried again. Mm-hmm. He tells me, he said, how could I ever, someone's just going to live in your shadow, And I'm like, well, you made your bed, I don't know. I don't know I would love for him to find a healthy woman to be around my children, to have an example, but a partnership, a relationship. I don't want to be an example to my kids of, you can do it on your own, No, I want you to know what it's like to be in a healthy relationship. Right. My parents didn't necessarily give me the best example growing up.
Are your parents still together?
They're divorced now, but they got divorced many, many moons after, I was out of the house and they had children. And I also think no family is perfect. No, you've got families who are married, the parents are married, their grandparents are married, the cousins are married, the aunts and uncles,
and it's happy.
Toxic and it's unhealthy and it's horrible. And so you just have to deal with, the hand you're dealt.
Yeah.
That's it. And make the best of it. And
so you talked about, having to then going from not having to work to then, okay, wait, I'm a single mom and now I have to survive. So you got your real estate license before you got divorced. And then you were like, I'm going to be fully in this.
Yeah.
So mid-20s.
I didn't have a choice. Yeah.
And then you've sold your first house. How does this
Yeah.
Because you were before everybody got their license. Like now, I feel like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been licensed I've been selling real estate for over a decade.
You're actually, okay, so you're a real estate agent.
I'm an actual real estate
because
agent.
some of the franchise.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
I know.
And,
yeah. Or
we are also, I will say, like, we're recording this 4 blocks from your office.
Right. I know. It's so convenient.
It's very convenient. But I will say, like, I walk by with my kids all the time. I'm like, nobody's home. Yeah. Like, why are they not there? Is this just a set? But you actually have your real estate license.
I actually have my license. And here's the thing, though, is that if you go into the office, you'll find agents who are there. And the way I was trained, many, many moons ago is, like, my broker would shoo us. He's like, why are you here?
Go
Get
in the field.
Out.
Yeah.
Go. You're not doing your job if you're here. Go be in the field. Go do something. And so I was never in the office. I'm never in my office unless I'm meeting a client or I need to print like 100 pages of something and I don't want to use my own ink.
Ink is very expensive.
Right? It's so expensive. And especially at a 70-30 split, I'm trying to get all of my money's worth at that office. So whenever I go there, though, there are the same few agents that are there all of the time. And aside from Gio, who does a lot of business, they're not producing. Nobody's going to just walk in the door and say, I want to use you as my agent. Somebody might walk through the door at the Oppenheim Group because we've got a great location and we've got clout. But out of everyone who's sitting there, why would they choose you?
Some of your co-stars have knocked on my door.
Really? I'm going to guess who they've been. And you tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
I may not know their names, but I could tell you what they look like.
So they're not on the show?
No, they are on the show.
Oh. You don't know their names.
Look, it was the 2 girls in, I think, of the first season that were friends that they're not friends anymore.
Oh, Jarvis and Rose.
Blondes.
Is that who you were going to guess?
No, I was actually going to guess.
We've had it twice. So they knocked the first time. And they knocked the first time and we were like not even done, moved in yet. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. No. And my husband is like, how much you want to give me for the house?
Right.
And I'm like, we're never selling. We're leaving this to our children.
Yeah, we're coming out feet first.
100%.
Yeah.
And then the last time it was another girl and I was home and my nanny opened. I was like, tell her to go away. Like,
get off my property.
100%. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I have to give credit where credit is due.
They hustle.
They're out.
They're for
doing
sure.
it. And I would, if they were under my umbrella, I would say, beat the dead horse.
Wait, so at what point do you feel like your real estate career took off selling OC and Oppenheim Group?
So I used to work for Sotheby's.
Okay.
And so I started at a small brokerage in Laguna Niguel. That's where I started. And I got mentored and I learned a lot. And my broker told me about a year and a half into that, maybe 2 years, he pulled me into his office and he says, what are you doing here? I'm like, what do you mean? He said, you gotta go. You gotta spread your wings. He's like, you belong at a brokerage in Newport or something more.
You're too pretty to
high
be down
end.
here.
He's just like you. And we were at a brokerage where, I had a phenomenal mentor and we would do a lot in the office. It was a very team oriented space where we would do role play and we would do all kinds of classes, right? To keep us, on our toes and learning and growing. And so he would see me and he's like, you are going to be making $1 million a year. Like but not here.
He saw talent in you.
And I said, okay, well, I anything he told me to do, I would do, and he was very direct, very straightforward. And we'd come in like, I don't know why they didn't want to sell. And they didn't I'm like, he's like, no, it's your fault. You did something wrong, And so I'm like, okay, yeah.
Do you still talk to him?
No, no. But I took what I needed and I left the nest. And so I went to Sotheby's and very happy at Sotheby's. And I strategically went there because back then I thought there's no better place I could be. There's no more of a high end brokerage I could be with. And if I'm anywhere in the world, people know Sotheby's.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like the Neiman's of, the industry. And I would be able to offer my clients the best service I possibly could. And so I went there and a couple of years into that, I started doing really, really, really well. And they took such great care of me. They really took care of their agents there and it was great. And about 9 months before the Oppenheim Group recruited me, I had gotten internally recruited inside of Sotheby's. And you're not allowed to do that unless the owner or the broker, signs off on it.
To go to a different office?
So it was a team. So I got recruited for a team that was working inside of Sotheby's, the top producing team. And they have a huge office in Huntington, but he wanted to infiltrate Laguna and Newport. And so that's why he asked my manager, he said, you know, I need somebody. I need somebody for this area. And he said, well, I'll give you Alex. So he recruited me and I was like, okay, here we go. Let's
build this.
Go to
Let's
the moon,
do it. Yeah.
You know? And because he was going to pay for all of my marketing. I mean, Sotheby's took such good care of me that, you know, at a certain point, they want you to stay and be happy. So they'll contribute, right? And pay for things before
much
escrow
different than
closes.
probably what you're doing
Very
now.
different.
Yeah.
And then they would take it on the back end. Once escrow closed, they would take all of their fees, but it was no upfront
They
cost
took care
to
of
me.
you.
They totally took care of me. And so I was like, my career is on an upward trajectory right now. And I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be. And like all things I feel in life, right when you're there, these little carrots start getting dangled.
Are you
right?
talking about the little carrots of like the 5-foot twins?
Yeah. Well, and I'm talking more about like Adam DeVillo.
Yeah.
So wait, you got recruited not from the Oppenheim Group. You got recruited from the show.
So I got a call from the producers and I wasn't feeling it. Right.
How did they find you?
Great question. And
You
I had
still don't know?
asked this question and they said, oh, yeah, your name was just on my desk.
Interesting.
I'm like, to be serious. You were just going through every website of Orange County
Finding a
realtors
pretty
and picking
girl.
out the good looking ones, even though my headshot is horrendous. So I don't know how I made the cut. But then again, a lot of the other people who they cast, it couldn't have been
really
that.
random.
Like some of them weren't even, it was so random. You know, it wasn't all top producing agents. It wasn't, and some of the cast was like, oh, they reached out to me on Instagram. Or it was, so I do maybe, there is a part of me that believes that maybe my name did just show up from the grapevine or something. Because to go through every single.
It's a lot in Orange County.
And not only that, but most people's headshots are a lot better than they look, right?
Right.
So imagine having to weed through and sift through all of that. So they called me and I wanted really nothing to do with it because I had received calls in the past. I mean, imagine I've been doing this for 11 years. People are like, oh, I want to, you know, start a reality show. I'm like, I have no desire to do that. So I just thought that they were some lowbrow production company wanting to do a reality show. And I didn't have time for that. And so I said, you know, no thanks. I'm gonna pass, but you know, whatever. Called me again. And I said, I'm not.
Who's actually calling you?
One of our producers, Skylar. Who is Adam DeVillo's right hand. Like it's them two. They are our main producers. And there's a couple of other ones too who are like on set with us.
Sure.
But they're the main ones behind the scenes type of stuff. And I also feel like it's very, like he wasn't calling. Like any of the other cast, they were like, we never talked to him. Like we talked to
that's kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Lower down. And
Right.
You talk to casting people normally.
Right.
You don't talk to the producer.
And again, you probably are a lot more familiar with this than I am because that was so new to me. I had no idea. So calls a third time and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, who are you guys? You know? And he said, okay, wait. He goes, and I feel like it's probably a little bit of like, they want what they couldn't have now knowing.
Yes, now that
you know, he's like, who the hell says no to a reality show?
And who says no to Adam DeVillo? Like
probably
in his mind, he thinks my name's on something.
Right.
Why are you not like?
So that was the last card that they drew or
Adam
that they
called?
played. He goes, I don't remember if Adam, this is what happened. Skylar called me again and he goes, okay, just listen. He goes, have you ever seen the show Selling Sunset? And I said, no, but I've heard of it, you know, and I don't watch television. I don't watch reality TV. I don't watch shows. I mean, very rarely.
Yeah.
And I said, so just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean shit because I'm fucking nobody, right? And he goes, okay, well, have you heard of The Hills or Laguna Beach? And I said, you know, it was like record scratch.
Yeah, you're bringing back my childhood.
Wait, yes. And he goes, okay. So he finally felt like he had gotten somewhere with me. He's like, I got the hook. And I said, well, yeah, I don't live under a rock. Of course I've seen Laguna Beach. And he goes, okay, that's our show. And he said, what do you mean that's your show? And he goes, we produced those shows. So then I was like, okay. So you guys are kind of big time. And it was full circle for me. And so again, I'm very big on, in that moment, there was just something that clicked, right? And he had gotten my attention. And so we had a little bit more of a conversation. He goes, let me get Adam. That's when he said, let me get Adam on the line and, let's set something up, blah, 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 blah. So we did a whole casting, like via the laptop. And he said, make sure you've got good lighting or you're near an open window. And again, I'm thinking, what is happening? Like, this is so weird. Like there's
he wants to see you perform.
Come on. Yeah. Well, and so I was telling my mom, I said, this is really, I feel like this is, pardon the pun here, but the devil just tempting me. And I've got something really, really good happening right now. And I'm solid, I'm secure. And the opportunity that I was given within my company already is very rare. And so I said, I don't think I'm going to do it. But I did the casting anyways. And it was, you don't know if the show's going to hit or if you're even going to get chosen. And so it was kind of out of sight, out of mind for me. And I was thinking, okay, let me give me, a few months to decide. Let me see where it goes at my brokerage. And I was actually engaged at the time. And the guy was
to another guy?
Yeah.
Wait, okay. Fast
I know,
forward.
which I did not want production to talk about, but now it's like, it's not a big deal. And he was absolutely not. There's no way you're doing this show. That's so embarrassing. And oh my gosh. Yeah. And it was like the control coming in again. Right. And so my mom already had PTSD. She's like, fuck that.
You're doing it.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, my mom's usually always right. Yeah. And so next thing I know, I'm like,
I'm breaking up my
with
engagement.
You. Yeah. I was like, it was just too.
Over the show?
No. Oh, no, it wasn't
just
for the show.
Because
I just
you
saw the red flags.
Yes.
I saw the red flags. And this was a guy where.
But you had a ring on your finger.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We were engaged. During COVID, there was a COVID engagement. We moved in together. It was weird. And everybody in my family was like, this is weird. I'm like, well, you know. And no.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, I did not know. So I said, listen. And I'm the kind of person, I don't usually go back and forth with people. Once I'm out, I'm usually out. My ex-husband was the exception to the rule because I was fighting for my family, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so once this veil was lifted off of my eyes for whatever reason, I was just like, okay, you have to move out. Like, this is done. This is done. And I was like, and I'm doing the show. So,
and by the way,
so get fucked. And so he moved out, and it just, oh God, I mean, thank God. I mean, what a blessing. But production knew that I was engaged because when I was interviewing,
You had to say that. It's a big part of your life.
Right. And so they probably thought, they had a whole different idea of what I was going to be.
It was probably really exciting for them that you were newly single.
Maybe.
And pretty.
Back,
what do you mean
probably.
Maybe?
100%. But they casted me when they thought I was engaged. They thought I was going to probably do my wedding on the show. And they thought I was, and I've heard from multiple people that are in production, they thought I was going to be this like small town, Midwest, like fan favorite, like little meek, beepity bappity boo, and not really have much of a backbone maybe, and maybe stir up some trouble. And I think I was way too polarizing. I was way too polarizing. So they had to pivot. And they thought I was going to be the Chrishell. That's what, I've heard. You cannot prepare yourself for what you're going to experience going on a reality show. It's nothing like you think it's going to be. And it's toxic. It's chaotic. It's a lot of things.
But I feel like so when I did it, and granted, we sat down like a casting, but at 16 years old, like your parents had to give consent. Mm-hmm. And we kind of knew what we were getting ourselves into because there was 2 seasons before us. But the pressure we also had because there was 2 seasons before it, totally new cast for season 3. And probably similar to you, like there was already this really successful selling Sunset, and then you're coming in as a new franchise, but like you also have to kind of rise up and bring your A game and give these producers what they want. Yeah. We didn't know necessarily because there was nothing else at the time. There was like the real world.
You guys pioneered it.
We pioneered this shit.
For the most part. Yeah.
For the most part, yeah. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have Instagram. Like now you have Instagram, you have TikTok, you have all of these companies that are able to reach out to you and make something of this. Yeah. Back then it was like, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just really excited to be on MTV.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now looking back, I'm like, shit, they knew exactly who their pawns were and what they were going to do to get you to play a certain role that they needed you to play.
100%.
But now you could be in this going into it. Like if I did a reality show now, I would have I would bring my A game because I know what they want.
Yeah.
You almost adopt a character. Like, are you who we see on TV, or
you do see me on the show? Like, that is me. But a lot of things are taken out of context, or you don't see the full picture of things. So like when my mom watches it, for example, or my sister or my really good friends, they're like, that's just you. We see Alex. But they also know who I am. Right. And so that's a part of who I am. I'm very multi-dimensional. And so it's like seeing one sliver of the pie, if you will. So you don't see the whole equation. And a lot of the things, even when you're seeing something like okay, here's a really good example. Season 3, there is a scene where the girls are all coming up to me, asking me about a podcast that I did. And calling somebody batshit crazy, blah, 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 needs to be medicated. And this is a podcast that I did 6 months ago, maybe even a year ago. And I don't remember. And they're all coming at me. I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what podcast. Like, what are you talking about? And if it's a podcast and you want to know who I'm talking about, just listen to the podcast. Yeah. I didn't write it in my fucking diary. It's on a podcast. So go figure. So I feel like they
also,
already.
Like, I feel like saying batshit crazy and she needs to be medicated. Like, I'd probably say that about you yesterday.
Not that, that's
like,
what I'm saying, though. They're so fucking dramatic. How could you say that about a woman? Like,
but they're playing a role.
Oh my God. They're giving production what they want.
Exactly.
But it's because it's me. They want to come at me.
You need to be a mean girl. Or
because they want airtime. And they don't have, for whatever reason, enough going on with their storylines to make it something worth airing. They need to attach
themselves to you.
Right. And that's a very common theme. That's not me being egotistical or a narcissist.
Well,
that's just the reality.
No, it's guaranteed in season 4.
But it's just, it's reality TV 101. Attach yourself to the main characters and you'll get screen time.
And create problems.
Or even more so, go against the main character and you'll create a storyline or get airtime. Right. And so, and not everything is like that. Not everybody is attaching them, but there are certain people I'm like, I know what you're fucking doing. Like,
what is it like when the cameras go down? Like, how about like in that situation where you're in a fight, are you still like heated and can't get over it? Or can the camera shut off and you're like, this is so fucking dumb. It's not even real.
There are many times where I'm like, this is so fucking dumb. What
the heck are we doing?
You know, and I literally will say to them, what do you want me to say?
I know.
I got to get out of here. I can't do this. What? I'm like,
I know,
to my producer, you know, blur out her name. I'm like, what do you want me to say here? Like, what are we doing? What? And they're like, they just want to capture it all, though. They're like,
Alex,
we can't not capture it. So
I
just keep going.
told her we were at a car wash and filming a scene. In a car wash, it has to be believable. The sun has to be up.
Yeah.
It was so long. They're like, we need you to say this. I'm like, tell me. Like, I got to the point. I can't cry anymore. What do you need me to say for me to be able to go home? And I have school tomorrow. Like, I need to get this shit done. I know. I mean, like a child, though.
I can't imagine filming while you have school. That's insane.
Weird, right? Well, I can't imagine filming and being a mom and a businesswoman. Like, it's all insane.
Oh my gosh.
But now you're at this place where you're like, you have more confidence than anyone in their high school years ever would. And you also realize like, okay, I'm playing a role in a sense. Yes, I am myself. I'm not scripted. I am, you know, I am Alex Hall.
Yeah.
However, like you do know what the cameras want from you. You know what your producers want from you.
They don't say, so I'll say, what do you want from me? You know, and they'll never say, it's not scripted. It's not. And they'll never say this. But they're very good at what they do, really good, you know? Yeah. And that's why their shows are successful though. So I will not, there are certain times where we're too far into a narrative where I can't just say, I'm not having any more conversation about this, or I'm not, you know, gonna meet up with this person and talk about this, because you know, they have to run with a storyline and make things fluid and make things make sense. But they're never giving us a script and saying, say this. But they will say, well, don't you think X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, is that what you want me to think?
Yeah, totally.
But they also, I mean, is it all, you know, butterflies and rainbows? No, but there are certain things where this is a job for me too, right? Yep. And so I say it's a love-hate relationship, because I don't trust you, but I trust you, right? Like, you're going to make a good show. Do I think you'll do anything in your power to protect me?
No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
For sure. If anyone watches any reality TV show, I don't care if it's the Housewives, Kardashian, selling OC, you know that there's some level of it being, I don't want to say the word fake, but it's like augmented, I guess. Like, this is not necessarily true. Watching you and Tyler together, it looked so maternal of how you were with
Like
this
he's a
little
baby?
Yeah, because
With a
honestly, Alex, I went to school with this person since I was 4 years old, 4 through senior year. He was my first kiss when I was in 4th grade. Was he my first kiss and your last kiss?
I hope I've kissed many frogs after him. I
good.
promise.
Well, hopefully Prince is too. But like, he was a little boy who stuttered. Now he's some like heart.
But I also had, like, my son had a little speech impediment.
Oh, and I'm not
too, so
talking
I
badly about
but
it.
it was very maternal.
Oh, does he still stutter?
My son or Tyler?
Okay.
So that's also, I actually, and this is.
He's a sweetheart.
Well, I
okay,
thought
but
he was a sweetheart, but I think, I don't know. I actually noticed so Tyler had a speech impediment and nobody had noticed it. And I remember when him and I started becoming closer and becoming friends, I was like, what did I say to him? I said, when you get nervous, and he goes, he's like, wow, you noticed. But I pick up on very, very small nuances, right? And it's an energy thing too, because I can tell when he gets really nervous and he's like, oh yeah, it used to be way, way, way worse. And then when he met my kids, like when we were friends, like I don't introduce men to my children that I'm dating,
right,
for the most part. And so as we were friends, he'd come over with other cast members and other friends, and like my son and my daughter had come into the office, and Tyler, I remember saying like, oh my God, it's so cute. You're so, like the voice, but it wasn't like a stutter. My son just couldn't do his R's. He couldn't pronounce his A's. So it would be, I really like Boston. Yeah. Like everyone said he sounded like he was from Boston. And now he got rid of it, which is like a very sad day for me when that went away.
I feel like
but
the things that
I loved it. People would correct him. I'm like, shut up.
It's so
don't
sweet.
correct him.
Yeah.
But it was he had a stutter then. He's still, when he gets nervous, whatever. But I was very grossly maternal for this person. And it was that for a very long time. And again, I don't know. I think maybe mothers see that. I don't know.
It just was not believable. Especially after sitting down with you, you need a man. But I could see that on TV. Like, I don't take Alex Hall as being like taking little surfing.
Well, that's why Gio was like, she's going to eat him
100%. Gio nailed it on the head then, because honestly, like I look at you, I'm like, I want to know who she went to London with and then Italy with. Like, that sounds like a man's man.
The trip of a lifetime.
Like, that's who I see you with. I don't see you with Tyler Stanlin.
Yeah, well, neither do I. But apparently my producers did.
They wanted to, Adam DeBello.
They really, really, really wanted to. In their heart of hearts, like my producers would come up to me after filming and they were like, no, like this is happening. I'm like, no, it's not. Yeah. Our producers want to connect with you. That's their job, is to make you feel safe and to make you feel like you can trust them. And when I say, I'm like, you guys are very good at your jobs, and that's a compliment to them because that's their job, right? Whether it's manipulative or not, they're good at their job. And so I'll tell them now, I'm like, no, fuck you. No. And they'll be like, oh my God, that's like mean. I'm like, I don't mean it like rude. I just know that what you're trying to do here, and I'm not for it. Yeah. I'm not here for it. And that's why I always say, like you used to say, just tell me what you want me to say and I'll tell you if I'm okay saying it or if that's anywhere remotely how I feel. And we can go from there, right? Because sometimes like we're in the chair being interviewed for 4 hours.
For confessionals?
And I'm so exhausted. Yeah. So your brain literally becomes mashed potatoes. Also, there's something about the lights that are not even on this level. They are the most bright.
Right.
It's like the sun is in front of your face. And it's very disorientating.
You look really pretty though, at least.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I always say whenever we film it, I'm like, give me the Adam DeVilla lights.
Yeah.
Like I need the Adam
DeVilla
lights.
looks like he has salmon sperm on a daily basis. Like he does. He's
always glowing.
It's been almost 20 years since I've seen this man and he looks the same. It's weird. You have to Google
That's
him.
LA for you.
That's LA for you.
That's LA for you, baby.
No, but it sounds like you do have a good foundation of who you are, and a lot of that being family. Having your family just be behind you and your mom behind you, I think is a huge, huge blessing.
Yeah. I think that having my family is huge, right? And like my sister and my mom and my daughter they're my best friends, right? But it's also, I feel like, a quality that has come from, they say, there are 2 types of people, like diamonds are formed under pressure and bread rises when it's left alone. And I'm definitely the diamond, not that I love my bread, right? But I do really well under pressure. And I think that a lot of my life has been pressure and really, really turned me into the person that I am, with many years of therapy also. And so just the experiences then that the hand I've been dealt has really, even relationships with men and, dating with kids and being divorced, I learned something about myself with every single experience and with every single relationship. And that'll happen hopefully till the day I die, as far as, growing and learning. And
Okay, can we talk about men? Who are you dating? Are you dating?
I'm not. Okay, so I was taking a hiatus.
Are you getting
men.
so many people in your DMs?
No.
Me being one, but
I wish.
are you getting a lot of hot guys?
You want. No.
I know.
And that's what when you said you DM'd me, I said, I don't get a lot of my DMs.
This was a meant to be
That
thing.
is so weird.
Yeah.
And maybe I was going through these requests and you were at the top. I don't know. But no, I'm not getting inundated with DMs. And I am, but not from like
the ones you want. Yeah, not the eligible bachelors.
But I was like, okay, I'm going to take a hiatus from dating. It's just, it was becoming a chore, right?
You have enough work to do.
But I love and I want to be, like, I don't want to be single. I want to be in a
What are you looking
relationship.
for in a man? Do you want somebody that has kids, been married, has a little practice?
I mean,
I know
that
you
would
don't
be
want,
ideal, but
I
then
know
I feel
you
like
don't
I'm
want a
narrowing
baby.
down the quality, I'm narrowing down my pool even more slim, because then somebody who has kids, then I'm like, but I also want you to have a great ex-wife or a great mom, right? To the children. And then we have to get along. And then, you have to be financially stable, which is, having children, they're very expensive. And I also want you to put me first, but then we have kids. So we know that our kids
and make
come
sure
first.
you prioritize your children,
But
also
put me first, but also prioritize your kids, or else I'm going to judge you. And then
Can
it's never gonna
AI
work.
create this man, actually?
Exactly. Can I get on ChatGPT? Can you form someone, tell me
100%,
where to go? But kids or no kids, that's not a deal breaker, because I do think that some men are very paternal, before they have children. And some man can love your kids the same way that they would love his own. But definitely somebody masculine, but somebody who also, like you were, saying how you met your husband.
Oh, God.
And it's like, that's your personality. So somebody has to be able to not just like the idea of me, but actually accept me, because I think what's happened in the past is people think, oh yeah, oh my God, you're a great mom and you're family oriented and you can cook and you know how to be a wife and you're a great mom and you've got it all going on. And then when they're with
you
me,
to myself.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like,
I don't want to
no,
share
no.
you.
Now the insecurities start piling up, and not to say that I'm perfect. I am not perfect, but having a partner who also is willing to accept and learn and grow and has a good foundation, right? And we have to be compatible, and you want there to be chemistry. It's just, there's so many boxes that need to be checked.
Yeah, I also feel like it's so hard in this day to find a partner. Like,
I mean, you're preaching to the fucking choir.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
That's when you're like, I went on a date with somebody and they started, I'm like, was it my husband?
Yeah, no.
I mean,
Was it? No.
Does he look like this man?
I have not ever. The only time I ever ran into, and obviously, I mean, there probably are more married men than I know that have come up to me, or maybe, I don't know, but was in Palm Springs many, many, many moons ago. Like when I was still married, a married man. I was like, I see your tan line.
Ooh,
Ew.
cringe.
And he was like, that ride, you'd have a bigger rock if I was your man. I'm like, bro,
That's not the line.
I was like, get away from me. Your energy is bleeding into me.
Yeah.
Like, gross.
Ugh.
But I see, and this is also part of, like, I'm not even jaded, I feel like, from my past relationship.
You still love
I still think that people are pure and they don't cheat. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, bitch, get your shit together.
I know.
Most
no,
people,
there is someone out there for you.
but we'll see. I mean, there is. But do I? Sometimes I talk like the guy, that I went to Italy with and, moved to London. He's moving back. And
Wonderful.
I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work anymore. Like, maybe I've talked myself out of it, or maybe I don't know.
Don't close doors though. You never
I'm
know.
not going to close the door.
know.
There's still a crack, but it also, I feel like a lot of times you find somebody that meets, a lot of the, checks a lot of the boxes, but then I'm like, oh, but I can't see you being like in my children's life.
That's huge.
that's hard.
Yeah, that's
You
a
know?
whole other.
And then I can't introduce them to my children until we've dated for at least,
And that's
6
the biggest
to 9
part
months.
of your life that
Yeah.
you're keeping from this
Exactly.
person.
So it's a really weird balancing act.
But
and
I feel like
juggling
when
act.
you find the right person, it's all just going to mesh well and blend, and it's not going to feel like work, because all of it feels like so much work until you have somebody that's going to come swoop you off your feet and just make all of this fall in line.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
I'm going to help you find somebody.
that's what is in my mind.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but am I also like living in a la la land?
No.
I don't know. We'll see. I think that it's just, I don't know.
You must
We'll
be
see.
proud though, looking back and being like, thank God I didn't fucking settle for anything.
I mean, thank God I didn't fucking settle. But at this point, I'm like, maybe I just should have. Because this shit's not getting any easier. I'm like, oh my God. My mom's like, well, you could have been married to him for 5 years now.
But you're more marketable than ever.
Yeah, but
you are.
But this is a very crazy. If I had, a nickel for every time somebody that I've dated was like, get off the show. I'm like, I don't want to do the show. I don't want to be a boss bitch. I want to be, I want to work because I want to work. I'm doing this out of survival. Like, I don't have a choice. Right. And I have, a lot of my life has been in my masculine energy because I've had to survive. I've had to be the man and the woman in my household. And so trying to lean more into my feminine, but still leading the same life that I've led, it's not impossible.
Yeah.
But it's chaos. I mean, it is camp chaos.
You came to the
at
right
its
place.
finest.
Yeah.
And so when I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take a hiatus from dating. I need to just focus on my kids and my career. And I really don't have time for it. And if something happens, it happens. But I get sad. Like, I've realized, I was talking to my mom about it last night. I'm like, I've got this cloud. I'm just kind of sad. And she goes, well, yeah, you've been sad ever since you broke up with your ex.
The fiance.
Oh my God, is that true? No, that was ages
Wait, you're
ago.
talking about
the guy that I've been broken up from for the last, almost a year now.
That's the ex.
And she's like, she goes, that happens. She's like, you don't want to be alone. And she's like, and you haven't really.
So
and
did
I'm a
you break up
relationships person.
did you break up only because of the distance?
We broke up. When he moved, we did the whole thing for like 3 months. And then it got to a point where he wanted to be in that experience. And I was like, I don't want you to ever, like, don't come back here for me. Don't. I thought us breaking up would be, he'd fully be able to move on and have that London experience that he wanted. And comes to find out, he couldn't. Yes,
but I like that
my
this
heart
door is
didn't.
open. I don't know why I'm feeling like this is
We'll see
it.
where it goes. Yeah, I mean, hey, and then that's the thing too. It's like, if whoever I end up with probably will. I mean, then do I stay on the show? Do I
That's
stop
what I was
the
gonna
show?
say. Do you
Most
bring
of
them on
them
the show?
that are solid, I feel like don't like the show.
Yeah, you don't.
They're like, nah. I'm like, okay, well,
you keep it sacred. That's
Yeah.
separate.
yeah. But even if they don't want to be on the show, but I also think that there's been that fucking Tyler narrative for so long that maybe once that's gone and it's not like trying to follow me in my relationship around, it would be different.
Okay, Adam DeVello, you know who you wanted me to be in the first season.
Yeah.
Let's bring that bitch back.
Yeah, bring that bitch
She's
back.
ready.
The bitch
Yeah.
is back. Enough of the fucking associating myself with another. And here's the thing, that there's a lot of us that aren't even at the office anymore. Like, that have fell off the wagon. Tyler's not there anymore. Jarvis isn't there anymore. And Sean isn't there
Isn't
anymore.
that your whole cast?
Pretty much.
Wait, they've left the Oppenheim Group. So they're they hang their agency with other.
I have no idea if they hang their license anywhere else. But
Their
also
license.
that doesn't mean that they won't come back on the show. Like, the brokerage
Yeah.
is different. So
Right.
if we do season 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, they will have to be at the Oppenheim Group. So
Interesting.
who knows? Who knows if they'll come back?
Oh my
Well-
God.
I think Tyler would, because he's a sucker for the TV.
Yeah,
even though he
yeah,
says
yeah.
he's not. I think he'll come.
Oh, for sure. I
So
think
that'll
that
be
is
fun.
Joy. Oh
Yeah.
my. We can't wait
Yeah.
to.
You know, it's funny. Before we talked, I actually said to Taylor, I said, I wouldn't be surprised because I feel like you're a smart, business savvy woman. I wouldn't be surprised if both you and Tyler were like, we know we're playing a role. Let's play into this. But I'm actually not buying that.
He's in a full-blown relationship with a chick who he was dating all seasons. All of the seasons.
All 3 seasons while married too.
I don't know.
In
Oh.
Orange County? The
Mhm.
girl's from Orange County?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she's still with
You
him?
probably know her. Because
I
a lot of my
know, I
girlfriends who
think-
grew up here knew her. Her name is no,
What's her last name?
she's a little brunette. I don't know. I could ask my girlfriend. But that's why he was so weird while we were filming. He would never be seen with me out in public.
But then this girl's totally fine with this whole narrative.
Who the fuck?
No,
That's
'cause
why
she's
he
like,
blocked
she's-
me.
because she's a little girl and
That's
she's not
why
a
he
woman.
blocked
And
me. He blocked me, and because she probably was like, "Fuck you! If this is ever gonna have legs, like, you need to." I mean, when we made out in the hot tub,
They were still together.
they were together.
That's fucking
When we filmed all of season 3, and I said, "You are a cat." Howard. I said, now it makes sense.
Makes sense. He's not
That
coming
you
back for
couldn't have
season
been
4.
seen with me outside of the show. And he goes, well, you were dating somebody too. I said, but you knew about it. And he knew about it.
He's not
I said,
coming
my
back. I
London
hate
boy
to tell you.
knew that I was dating and doing, like, it wasn't a secret. That wasn't a secret, Tyler.
Oh
I said, you had somebody who full-blown thought you were in a relationship with him, in a monogamous relationship.
He
Just the energy, though.
honestly-
He's so meek.
He's too meek.
He's so meek.
Too meek.
And so when we were friends, you know, for the first 2 seasons, even before the hot tub thing, like we were friends, and he had a lot of anxiety, and he leaned
He's
on
not
me
cut out for this.
a lot because he was like, you've taught me so much, like how to try to be more confident and, you know, have a backbone and have boundaries. And so we did bond as friends, but it was that mommy-son relationship,
There was
right?
something maternal.
And like
yeah.
he didn't really bring anything to the table except for chaos and confusion. So it hit me when I went to dinner with Polly, like mid-season 2, I think, or maybe 3, I don't remember. And I was like, I don't fucking know. And she's like, well, why not? Like, just fucking see where it goes. And I said, Polly, we don't talk when we're not filming. It's like this weird back and forth. Like he always makes a plan with me and then cancels. That night we made out in the hot tub.
Yeah, like did
We
you guys
all
go
went
home
out
and have
after.
sex?
No, we all went out after to some random bar in
You don't go
Newport
from
Beach.
hot tub
And
makeouts
he
in your
wouldn't
30s
be
to
within
not.
6 feet of me. He was like, I was like, okay, this is
Was
weird.
the
You just
girlfriend
poured
there?
your heart out to me. In
Made
the
out
hot
with me.
tub. We made out, and it was so sweet.
Did
and
you do
so
that for
cute.
cameras?
No,
That
it's
you
all real.
fuck.
And that's why I'm like, that's why to me in my heart, I'm like, how can people think that this man and I had an affair when you see?
You see
Yeah.
the timeline, yeah.
But I guess for me, I'm seeing it from my glasses because that's, you know,
well, what you're saying right now, it's
it
like,
was
oh, duh.
emotional for me. And I was like, wow, finally. And that felt real. That did feel real to me, how he was expressing it. And I was like, okay. And then that night, literally after we left, and he's like, I was weird because you gave me he said that I played him. I'm like, I played you in the hot tub. I'm like, what? I'm like, I let you have the stage and talk about how you felt. Like, what do you mean? And he's like, and then he like manipulated me into thinking that I didn't give in and I didn't, you know, pour my heart out to him. So I'm like, you need to like grow a pair of balls. Like, I don't understand what's happening. But the whole point is that we went out that same night and he wouldn't even be, and I'm not stupid. I mean, I feel
you're, like,
stupid
sitting there
now,
like,
but I'm like,
what in
what
the
is
fuck?
happening? Like now you won't even
Look
be-
at me.
Acknowledge
sit next
me.
to me.
But we were in the hot tub making out 2 hours ago.
But he couldn't be
So
seen.
weird.
He couldn't be seen in public.
Because
Oh.
he had the
But then I thought to myself, when season 3 came out, I was like, how is he going to dig himself out of this hole? How?
well, now how?
He's a repeat offender.
Yeah.
Because
Of course.
I believe that Brittany, now knowing, because he did it to the other girl, that chick who he's dating, she had to watch the show. And I guarantee you,
He did
she
not
had
tell-
no
no,
idea what was
no.
going on. And so it was the same thing that happened to Brittany. Brittany had no idea that Kayla tried to seduce him. She had
Mhm.
no idea about that. Was the first season, because Brittany and I talked about that. You know, after season 1, there was never, even with Brittany, there was never a rumor that I was having an affair with Tyler ever. That was
So maybe
never
it was
a thing.
honestly just editing of how that podcast came out.
I think that she could have clarified.
Or did she
I
have,
think she
wait,
did it. I think she had an agenda and she
did she
worded
have
it
something coming
purposefully.
down the pipe?
Yes, she had
Yeah.
a book or a show.
Or a movie
There
or
you
something.
go.
She was very, it was PR.
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
great PR, great for you.
Good job.
You know? Great. But now I'm being fucking dragged. You know, it's all.
It wasn't her just defending her or telling her story.
No.
Okay.
And she
this is all
said it-
making more and more
she
sense.
could have easily said, what you
Clarified.
think happened, but it wasn't with who you thought it happened with.
Exactly.
You
That
know
would
what
have
I
been the right thing to
But
say.
That was such a buzz that she said it exactly. And she's an actress. And obviously, he does have the ability to be unfaithful because
Clearly.
he was
Clearly.
manipulating me an entire 2 seasons and dating a chick. So he's got it
And
in him.
and living with her parents potentially, like what? Imagine
That's
those
why
parents being like,
whenever we were on the phone, ever,
would he would like whisper,
he'd be
go
like,
get in his
okay,
car?
well, I just pulled up to the house. I'm like, so go inside. And he used to tell me that he lived with Trevor, his brother, which I think he did. He had a room with his brother, like in, you know, Monarch Beach.
Wait,
whatever.
just go inside, go home.
I'm
You're
like,
not
are you
gonna
there?
like.
And it was just I knew. I always knew something was up. And it just never came
You
out.
think-
And
well,
even
if
he
I were
didn't
you, I
even
probably
tell me
wouldn't
about
think
it.
that
My
he's
girlfriend
capable.
texted me about it and
But
said,
did you think he was capable of that?
of what? No.
Yeah,
No,
I would
did
not.
think
I would
he was
not.
a cheater.
Yeah.
I did not think he was a cheater. Because even when him and I were dating, like whatever the fuck we were doing on the show, I said, listen, I don't want to be even intimate with you until your divorce is final.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, and he said, you know, I actually respect you so much more because of that.
Well, look what you went through. I mean,
And I just
You're
thought,
gonna do that?
we're on the same page,
Right.
you know? And I said, not that it has anything to do, like I was separated, you know, and That's not cheating. I just said for me, I really don't want to get involved physically. You know, we made out like crazy, you know, and whatever, but there was never any physical intimacy. Like, I'm sorry, never any sex,
Right.
you know? And he was like, oh, I actually respect you way more than that. Could you imagine? He would have been fucking me and her at the same time.
Oh God.
Unbelievable.
Stutter Stanley did not think you had that in you.
No, Stuttering Stanland. Yeah, and then Polly's always
Maybe
one who
he is
brings
the
me
fuck
back.
boy.
And
I
was
said he
like,
didn't have fuckboy energy.
That's how I feel about him too. And Polly's like, look at the fucking facts.
This man really should come out and speak at this point, though.
Well,
You realize
he will just
that.
dig
He can't.
himself
Yeah.
into a deeper hole. What is he going to say?
No,
There's too
what did
many
I say to you? I said,
lies
why
now.
has that guy not said anything?
There
you go.
No way. And then if he,
You can't say anything.
And that's why people are like, oh, he'll come back on the show. He loves the fame. And I said, if he comes back, I have gone publicly and talked about it, and I know him, and he's got he gets an email every time his name is.
He gets a text.
Yeah.
He's getting text alerts.
And so I know he reads it. I know
alerts.
I was his support blanket, you know, his emotional support blanket. I can't believe it. I'm like, God, how do you have time to read all that shit? Like, fucking mute it. Like, who gives a shit?
Who
It's not
gives
going
a
to
shit?
change anything.
Carry on.
You know?
He
And-
loves the attention from
and then
this,
he
but now
used
he's
to tell
probably
me-
panicked.
And then he used to tell me, oh, I can't be seen just with you because of, you know, or I can't talk about certain things, or I can't because of the
Girlfriend.
the Britney Snow thing, which is
Oh.
bullshit. Had nothing to do with his ex-wife. It had to do with
His lies.
his
relationship.
girlfriend. And I'm like, shame on her though, like for
She
letting
knows.
you manipulate her for 2 seasons in a
She's
row.
gonna
And
know.
she's seeing this. You know she's watching it.
I mean, who the fuck knows? I don't know.
Well, what's like next for you? You have
Okay.
anything coming?
Oh, I have a lot of things coming. So, God willing or not, I mean, we'll get picked up hopefully season
Yes.
4 and 5. I'm right in the midst of developing. I'm doing a beauty line, a
Amazing.
skincare line, because that whole area holds a very special place in my heart. When I got divorced, I had horrible cystic acne, and nothing would work, and so I witchcraft my way into this like perfect product. And now I've sourced all of these really high quality ingredients that I used to use for when I was pregnant on my stomach for stretch marks. And then I just started slabbing all of this stuff on my face, and, you know, something finally worked. So I've put it into a 1 bottle, and I'm going to
Wow.
start, we're done manufacturing, but we're working on like printing and labeling and the branding side of things. So I'm very, very excited. I just did an interview with Pop Sugar on the
When is it
line.
launching?
So I'm very, very excited. I think it should be launching next month.
Okay,
So not
soon.
June, but July. So it'll be here for summer.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll do like a limited drop of it, and then see how
I
it
saw
goes.
something you put on your Instagram that you're like, bitch, I was crunchy before it was cool.
Oh,
and I'm the
yeah.
same.
I've been,
like,
my grandmother was a holistic doctor. Like before it was a thing.
before it was
it was-
clickbait on Instagram,
Yes.
y'all are getting paid. Like I was doing
Yes.
I love
And-
that.
And I think because I had kids so young, and I don't trust
You educated
I don't
yourself.
trust Western medicine
Yeah.
or doctors. So I've been doing this for 14 years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and my
You're
product
not
is
just getting
all
on board.
natural. Yeah.
Awesome.
And that's what works best, you know, for me. And so, and I really do think that your face, you know, it gives you, you can be the most confident person in the world, but if you've got bad skin or
Mhm.
bad hair, you're not going to be as confident as you should be. And that's, you know, a huge part of just living and existing in society, you know,
Right.
giving whatever you're going to do to give yourself confidence. Right. And my face is important to me. So
Yeah. Oh my God. how
I'm excited for that.
exciting.
Yeah.
but that's the next biggest thing. That's really, really, really big. And then I'm just trying to get it out before if we get signed for season 4 and 5, because that takes so
got
much
it, yeah.
time.
I know.
Filming takes so much time, but that's very exciting. And I'll send you guys a PR package once we,
Oh my
once
God,
we get
you're
it
so
out. 'Cause I'm going to
cool.
send out.
What do you mean
probably-
send it? Just like drop it
That's
by.
true. That's
Come on
true.
over.
Save myself the shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
But excited
my
for
God.
that. And this is gorgeous.
You're so sweet.
This
Thank
house is
you.
Stunning.
Thank you
This
so
house
much.
is absolutely
Well,
stunning.
if I ever sell it, I'll call you.
Whatever you do, don't use the other 2 people that knocked on your door. But it's absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you so
gorgeous
much.
property. You did.
Thank you so much for being
This
here.
was so
and
fun.
doing
So
this
happy to
with
be here.
us.
Yeah,
So
this was
happy to be
awesome.
here.
So appreciate